We've all seen it happen. Someone rises to incredible heights, only to come crashing down in the most unexpected, heartbreaking way. That was exactly the case for Cindy Crawford's son, Presley Gerber. Once seen as a rising star with everything going for him, good looks, famous parents, and a promising modeling career, Presley's fall from grace was so shocking it reportedly brought his mother to tears. Today, his name isn't just associated with red carpets or magazine covers. Instead, Presley's story has become a cautionary tale, one whispered among industry insiders and young hopefuls alike. But what really went wrong? How did someone with the world at his feet spiral so fast and so far? Grab a seat, because we're about to dive into all the jaw-dropping details behind Presley Gerber's very public downfall. Cindy Crawford's journey to the big stage. Before we dive into all the details about Presley's public downfall, we first have to talk about the woman who birthed him, and why exactly his recent transformation has sent her into a downward spiral. Cindy Crawford had it all: the looks, the body, the fame. At one point, she wasn't just a model, she was the standard. From runways to magazine covers, music videos, and even global campaigns. Cindy was everywhere. She had half of Hollywood chasing after her, and when she walked into a room, the world noticed. Cindy was born on February 20th, 1966, in DeKalb, Illinois, to Daniel Crawford and Jennifer Sue Walker. She grew up in a typical Midwestern family alongside her two sisters, Chris and Danielle, and a younger brother, Jeffrey. But tragedy struck early. Jeffrey died from leukemia when he was just 3 years old. That loss left a mark on the family and shaped much of Cindy's grounded nature, even as she began rising through the ranks of fame. She was smart too. Cindy wasn't just coasting on her beauty. She graduated from DeKalb High School as valedictorian and earned a scholarship to Northwestern University to study chemical engineering. But just a few months in, modeling came calling, and when opportunity knocked, she didn't hesitate. She dropped out of college and threw herself into the world of fashion. Her entry into modeling wasn't even glamorous at first. As a teenager, she was tricked by classmates into thinking a local clothing store wanted her for a modeling gig. It was a prank, but the joke was on them. Not long after, a real offer came, and soon she was posing for local ads and magazine features. A photo taken by photographer Roger Legel ended up being her first cover, and from there, things moved fast. Cindy entered Elite's Look of the Year contest at 17 and became a national finalist. That launched her into the modeling industry at full speed. By the time she moved to New York City in 1986 and signed with Elite Model Management, Cindy was already becoming a household name. Her face started appearing everywhere: Vogue, Cosmopolitan, Elle, Harper's Bazaar, and Allure. By 1998, she had appeared on over 500 magazine covers. On the runway, she modeled for the biggest names in fashion: Chanel, Versace, Calvin Klein, Dolce & Gabbana, Dior, Valentino, and many more. She wasn't just a model, she was the face of an era. Her influence wasn't just limited to fashion. She appeared in music videos like George Michael's Freedom, 90, starred in Pepsi commercials that aired during the Super Bowl, and even dipped into acting. Though her film debut in Fair Game was a flop, it didn't hurt her image. Cindy had already solidified her place as one of the most iconic women in pop culture. In 1988, she posed for Playboy, not for shock value, but on her own terms. The photos were shot by renowned photographer Herb Ritz and praised for their artistry. She also released successful workout videos, did brand deals with Maybelline, Omega, Revlon, Gap, and countless others, and even had a lipstick named after her. Cindy wasn't just a pretty face, she was a brand. And that brand stood for timeless beauty intelligence, and control. That's why what's happening now is hitting her so hard. For decades, Cindy built an image of perfection. She kept her private life clean, raised her kids away from unnecessary noise, and supported them quietly from behind the scenes. So, to now watch her son, Presley, spiral in public, from reckless tattoos to erratic behavior, has been deeply painful. Sources close to the family say Cindy has been heartbroken by Presley's choices. She's tried everything: support, structure, tough love. But watching your child unravel under the weight of fame is something no parent, no matter how powerful or polished, can easily handle. Presley was supposed to follow in her footsteps. Instead, his name is now being whispered in the industry as a warning. And for a woman who spent her whole career controlling the narrative, this new reality has been devastating. So, what exactly went wrong with Presley Gerber? How did the golden boy of one of the world's most admired women become a headline for all the wrong reasons? We're getting into all of it soon. But we can't talk about Presley without first talking about Cindy Crawford's wild love history. Before Cindy met Presley's father, she was first with Richard Gere, and their relationship was both short-lived and chaotic. Cindy Crawford and Richard Gere. Cindy Crawford has had two high-profile relationships that drew nearly as much attention as her modeling career. The first was with actor Richard Gere, and the second with businessman Randa Gerber, the father of her two children. At one point, Cindy and Richard were the power couple of the early 90s. While she was solidifying her status as America's ultimate supermodel, he was enjoying career highs, including a Golden Globe nomination for Pretty Woman. On paper, they looked like a perfect match. In reality, their relationship was anything but simple. They reportedly met in 1988 at a mutual friend's barbecue and instantly clicked, despite the 17-year age gap. Cindy was only 22 at the time, already famous for her Vogue covers, flowing brown hair, and million-dollar smile. Richard was 39 and already a Hollywood heartthrob. Their chemistry was undeniable, and after 3 years of dating, they eloped in Las Vegas in December 1991. It wasn't your typical celebrity wedding. Cindy later shared that it was a spontaneous decision. She wore an Armani suit and walked down the aisle with tinfoil rings, an impulsive choice that mirrored the whirlwind nature of their romance. But behind the glamour and fairy tale appearances, the cracks had already started to show. Looking back in the Apple TV Plus documentary, The Supermodels, Cindy reflected on how much she had molded herself around Richard in the early days of their relationship. She admitted that as a young woman, she was eager to blend into the life of the man she loved. If he liked baseball, she liked baseball. If he was into Tibetan Buddhism, she was open to trying that too. She described it as a time when she was still discovering herself and, in the process, trying to fit into someone else's world. When their marriage ended in 1995, Cindy was 29. Richard was turning 46 that year. The age difference wasn't just a number, it had become a factor in how they related to each other. During a later interview on the WTF podcast with Marc Maron, Cindy revealed that one of the biggest issues in the relationship was that they weren't truly peers. She didn't feel like they had a strong friendship at the core, and as she grew older, that began to matter more. What started out as admiration and love turned into imbalance and disconnect. On Oprah's Masterclass, she explained how her mindset began to shift as she approached her 30s. In her 20s, she had been more open to following someone else's lead, but as her confidence grew, so did her desire for equality in her relationship. She realized she no longer wanted to just follow. She wanted to lead sometimes, and other times walk side by side. That evolving sense of self eventually clashed with the dynamic they had built, and the marriage couldn't keep up. Even though it ended, Cindy didn't look back with bitterness. In fact, She saw it as an important chapter in her life. She shared that she learned a lot about how to manage fame from Richard. He had clear boundaries when it came to fans. If it wasn't a good moment to take a photo or sign an autograph, he simply didn't. Watching him helped her understand how to protect her own peace in the spotlight. She also admired his intelligence and his curiosity about the world. For Cindy, that time in her life taught her more than most people realized. Eventually, she moved on and found the kind of love that lasted. Cindy married Randa Gerber, a successful businessman, and together they built a life that included 2 children, Presley and Kaya. While Richard also moved on and is now married to Spanish activist Alejandra Silva, with whom he shares 2 young sons. The couple is reportedly planning a move to Spain to raise their children in her home country. So while Cindy's first marriage may not have lasted, it shaped her in ways that extended far beyond love. It prepared her for the woman, wife, and mother she would later become. One who now finds herself facing one of the toughest challenges of all: watching her own son battle his demons in public. Cindy Crawford and Randa Gerber. Enduring love story. When Cindy Crawford met Randa Gerber in the early 1990s, love wasn't the goal. She was still married to Richard Gere, and Randa was also in a relationship. But their unexpected meeting at her agent's wedding ended up changing both their lives. Cindy had attended the wedding alone because Gere hadn't wanted to go, and that left the space for a chance encounter. Randa was there too, and even though neither of them was looking for anything serious, they clicked. There was no pressure, no expectations. The fact that they were both unavailable meant they could be themselves. Over time, they built a friendship. And when Cindy's marriage ended in 1995, that friendship slowly turned into something deeper. By 1997, Cindy and Randa were officially a couple, appearing together at the premiere of Father's Day. A year later, they tied the knot in a quiet ceremony on a beach in the Bahamas. It wasn't the kind of over-the-top wedding people expected from a supermodel. Cindy didn't wear a custom gown. Instead, she chose a simple white lace mini dress from John Galliano's ready-to-wear collection. She walked barefoot. Randa wore black trousers and a relaxed white shirt. They walked down the aisle hand in hand together. From the start, their relationship was rooted in something real. Soon after their wedding, they started a family. Their first child, Presley, was born in July 1999. 2 years later, they welcomed their daughter, Kaya, in September 2001. While both children would eventually follow in their mother's footsteps into modeling, Cindy and Randa kept their home life grounded and away from the chaos of Hollywood. Cindy has often said that friendship is what kept her marriage strong. She's spoken about how mutual respect guided their decisions, whether it was parenting or career moves. There was always room for each other's voice, and that balance helped them handle the ups and downs that came with busy lives and public attention. One gesture that stood out to her happened early in their relationship. Cindy had once mentioned in passing that she'd always wanted a piano. She didn't bring it up again, but one Christmas morning, she woke to the sound of someone playing Christmas music downstairs. When she got there, she found a piano in the living room, with a friend playing carols. Randa had quietly arranged the entire surprise. For Cindy, it wasn't about the gift, it was about being heard. When they marked their 25th wedding anniversary, Cindy shared a heartfelt message online, reflecting on the life they built together. She posted photos from their wedding day and wrote about how proud she was of the way they had navigated life as partners. She acknowledged that things hadn't always been perfect, but said she couldn't imagine going through it all with anyone else. Randa wasn't just her husband. He had always been her best friend. Their relationship has stayed strong through decades of fame, family, and everything in between. It's not flashy or loud, but it's real. Who is Cindy Crawford's first son? Presley Walker Gerber was born on July 2, 1999, to Cindy Crawford and Randa Gerber. With a supermodel mom and a successful businessman dad, Presley grew up surrounded by fame, fashion, and cameras. But despite the spotlight, his early life was also shaped by strong family values and a close-knit home. From a young age, Presley was introduced to the world of modeling. It wasn't a surprise when he eventually followed in his mom's footsteps. He went on to work with big brands like Dolce & Gabbana, Moschino, Tommy Hilfiger, and Calvin Klein. Modeling came naturally to him, but it wasn't the only thing he cared about. Presley has always been open about his struggles with mental health. In a 2023 podcast interview, he talked about dealing with depression and how important it is to speak up. He said that even if sharing his experience helped just one person, it would be worth it. That honesty led him to start Mental Health Mondays on Instagram, where he shared his journey and encouraged others to take care of their mental health without feeling judged. Family has always been a big part of Presley's life. He's especially close to his younger sister, Kaya. The two grew up side by side and even got matching tattoos. Presley has Kaya III on his arm, and she has Prez on her shoulder. As they both got into modeling, they often worked together and traveled for jobs. Presley once said that having Kaya around made everything feel less lonely. He also spent a lot of time with his mom, not just on shoots, but at charity events too. Cindy often brought Presley along when she volunteered at children's hospitals or helped out with causes like the Leukemia Society. She later said one of the things that made her proudest was seeing her kids continue to give back on their own, even when she wasn't there. Outside of work and family, Presley is the kind of person who loves staying active. He grew up surfing, playing basketball, snowboarding, and biking with his dad. He's also known for his tattoos, which have become part of his personal style over the years. Growing up in a famous family gave Presley a lot of opportunities, but it also came with pressure. Still, his early years were marked by a strong foundation, one built on family, honesty, and trying to use his voice for something good. And although Presley has a good family, who has mostly kept him grounded and made him feel seen and loved, even they couldn't stop him from unraveling in the public eye. Presley Walker Gerber's public downfall. Presley Gerber was born into the spotlight, the son of supermodel Cindy Crawford and model-turned-tequila mogul Randa Gerber. His entire existence was wrapped in fame and flawless genetics. With that kind of legacy, Presley didn't need to chase the limelight. It was waiting for him. His mother, one of the most iconic models in history, and his father, a respected businessman and former model, seemed to have handed him a golden ticket into any industry he wanted. Naturally, Presley chose fashion first. In 2016, at the age of just 16, he hit the runway for Moschino. His resemblance to his mom was uncanny, and his striking features quickly made him a hot commodity. He was soon working with brands like Calvin Klein, Tommy Hilfiger, Dolce & Gabbana, and Celine. In 2018, he even recreated his mom's legendary 1992 Pepsi ad, a nostalgic homage that positioned him as the heir apparent of the Crawford Gerber brand. He was young, successful, and beautiful. What could go wrong? Plenty, it turns out. Just days into 2019, Presley's seemingly perfect image took a nosedive. In the early hours of New Year's Day, a Beverly Hills police officer pulled him over for speeding in his Tesla. There was a smell of alcohol, and Presley, just 19 at the time, failed a field sobriety test. He was arrested and charged with DUI. It was his first run-in with the law, and though he was released without bail, the legal ramifications were serious. His license was suspended, and he was sentenced to 3 years of probation, mandatory DUI education, and 2 days of community service, a far cry from the glossy campaigns he had been fronting just months earlier. His attorney quickly released a statement saying Presley was taking the matter seriously, But the incident opened the floodgates. It wasn't just about one bad decision anymore. The press and the public began watching him differently. This wasn't the golden boy anymore. This was someone spiraling. And the spiral was just beginning. By 2020, Presley looked different. The clean-cut boy who mirrored Cindy Crawford now had colorful tattoos inked across his arms, torso, and neck. But it was the one on his face that drew the most outrage. That year, he revealed a fresh tattoo on his cheek that read, "Misunderstood." Fans were horrified, and even more so were his parents. On social media, people asked why he would jeopardize his modeling future and openly questioned his mental state. Presley didn't stay silent. He responded directly through Instagram Live, defending the tattoo with raw honesty. "If I thought this was going to ruin my face, or I didn't want this, I wouldn't have done it," he said. Then, dropping the defenses for a moment, he revealed, "It says misunderstood, because that's how I felt my entire life." When asked if his mother supported it, he replied, "My mom, she likes it. She's supportive. I don't know. It's my face." He dismissed rumors of drug use and challenged critics to say their comments to his face. But despite all the fire he showed then, Presley removed the tattoo the following year. As the headlines piled up, DUI, face tattoo, erratic Instagram behavior, it became clear that Presley was going through more than just a rebellious phase. Unlike his sister Kaya, whose modeling career soared with grace, Presley's journey was marked by noise and chaos. Insiders began offering a fuller picture. Presley was tired of being the other one. In a family where everyone seemed to glide, he stumbled. He is trying to get out of the shadow of his family and create his own identity, one source said. He also likes the attention he's been getting, even if it's negative. The expectations that came with the Gerber name weighed heavily on him. Presley feels like there's a lot of pressure on him because his parents and Kaya are so successful, said one insider. He wants to find his own place in the world. But for Cindy Crawford and Randa Gerber, Presley's behavior was more than an image issue. It was heartbreaking. Behind closed doors, the parents were deeply worried. He posted videos at gun ranges, made cryptic comments, and seemed lost in his own storm. "It's tough for them to see and has caused great concern," a family friend said. They know these statements are some kind of cry for attention or help. They were right. Presley's ups and downs weren't just playing out online. They were happening in real life, too. According to reports, he had already been in treatment before. His parents were pushing for him to get more serious help, believing that he was falling off the beaten path. He had started acting out more on social media, venting frustrations, and in one case was hospitalized after a mountain biking accident. They want to make sure he's in a good mental state and are closely watching him, the source said. In late 2022, a flicker of romance added some hope. Presley posted a photo carousel on Instagram with model Lexi Woods, captioned, "Guys, I did it." The photos were romantic and playful, and fans immediately speculated that the two had gotten engaged. Woods reposted it with emojis of a heart, a lock, and an infinity symbol, only adding fuel to the fire. But within weeks, it was over. The posts were deleted, the relationship ended, and sources said they had realized very quickly it wasn't going to be long-term. Presley had loved hard and fast, but again, it didn't last. Lexi, sources claimed, was ready to focus on herself, her modeling career, and her podcast. Presley was left behind to pick up the pieces. By 2023, Presley was beginning to confront everything he had gone through. In an honest and emotional interview on the Studio 22 podcast, he reflected on his life's missteps. "For me, having struggled with mental health, depression, and other things that come with that, I just want to help others avoid the place I was in," he said. "If I help one person, or 100, that's enough." He acknowledged the pain he'd caused, the battles he'd faced, and the hard-earned wisdom he'd gained. "I've seen a lot and learned a lot," he shared. "What I hope I can do is have made the mistakes for other people so they don't have to." Inspired by his own journey, he launched Mental Health Mondays on Instagram. In each episode, Presley offered insights and tips on managing mental health, hoping to guide others through their own struggles. He admitted he had to learn the hard way, but if someone out there was willing to listen, he could help lighten their load. He also explained why he stepped back from modeling. Though he had once walked for fashion giants like Balmain and Dolce & Gabbana, and even won Emerging Model of the Year at 17, his heart was never fully in it. "I hope not. Not a huge fan, but I do it when I can," he admitted during a 2020 Instagram Live when asked about future runway plans. By 2019, he had begun slowing down. The unpredictable schedule, the lack of structure, and long stretches of waiting between gigs began to weigh on him. You could be working January through February, and then you have no idea when the next job is coming, or when you're getting paid for the last one, he said. To him and his friends, modeling was just a stepping stone. Presley had other goals. He talked about getting his real estate license and using his modeling income as a springboard for building his own business, outside the shadow of his family name. Through it all, social media remained both a battlefield and a diary. During his misunderstood era, Presley was defiant. By 2023, he was wiser. In an episode of Mental Health Mondays, he said, "I've let a single comment ruin my day. I've learned not to let that energy in." He advised followers to take breaks when needed, to reach out to friends, and to block out the noise. "We're all on this journey together," he said. "I have a lot more to learn, like everyone." And then, in August 2024, Presley made his most vulnerable admission yet. In a series of Instagram stories, he revealed he was struggling with opioid addiction. "I'm dealing with a current, very high opioid addiction, and I've been on and off them for years now," he shared. "If you didn't know, now you do." He spoke candidly about preparing for ibogaine treatment, a powerful psychedelic therapy used to treat addiction and PTSD. "I'm scared," he admitted. "Getting clean is a scary thing. That's why so many people struggle with it." But he was committed. "It's time for me to do it, and stick to it." He told followers he would document the process to stay accountable and maybe even help someone else. The confession wasn't a breakdown, it was a breakthrough. "Hopefully, everyone now understands where I'm at." Presley Gerber's story isn't one of a neat rise and fall. It's a story of pressure, rebellion, pain, and growth. He didn't fit the mold his family seemed to slide into so effortlessly, and that almost broke him. But where he once felt misunderstood, he's now starting to understand himself. He's not walking in anyone's footsteps anymore. He's finding his own way forward. One step, one post, one Monday at a time. Like mother, like son. Although Presley Gerber's public unraveling has drawn countless headlines, there's a quiet irony at play. His mother, Cindy Crawford, once walked a similarly misunderstood path. Long before the runways, ad campaigns, and iconic Pepsi commercial, Crawford was just a girl from DeKalb, Illinois, carrying dreams that her own father didn't fully believe in. Back then, modeling wasn't viewed with the same prestige. In fact, when she first got started, her father assumed the worst. He didn't see it as a career. In his mind, modeling was just a sanitized word for something far more unsavory. Her parents even tagged along to her very first modeling appointment, unsure of what exactly they were walking into. Crawford herself had never dreamed of strutting down runways or gracing magazine covers. It hadn't even occurred to her that it could be a job. From where she stood in a small Midwestern town, fashion magazines felt like another planet. How could a farm girl ever end up in them? She was discovered by a local photographer, signed to a small agency, and watched that agency eventually become part of elite model management. Her rise seemed effortless from the outside, but it was anything but simple. Crawford had been her high school's valedictorian and earned a place at Northwestern University, only to drop out after one semester to chase what most people in her hometown didn't even consider a real profession. Even after she'd landed covers for Vogue and a campaign with Revlon, the scrutiny didn't stop. She posed for Playboy, and suddenly people were questioning her choices. Why would someone already at the top of the fashion world risk it all to appear in a men's magazine? It wasn't about money, far from it. The paycheck was small. What mattered was control. She'd traded her fee for something more valuable, the right to approve every image. In an industry that constantly tries to mold and manipulate, Crawford was staking a claim to her image and autonomy. That kind of boldness didn't always go over well. Years later, while reflecting on those early days in a docuseries that peeled back the glossy layers of the modeling world, Crawford admitted that at the start, she wasn't even selective with jobs. She didn't have the luxury. She took what came, learned as she went, and only later began to shape her career into what the world now remembers. Now, decades on, she watches as her son faces a media storm of his own. Tattoos, arrests, addiction confessions, all of it dissected under a magnifying glass. But if anyone understands the tension between personal choice and public perception, it's Cindy. Once accused of selling herself short, once misunderstood by her own family, once doubted at every turn, she's lived it. So, while Presley declares himself misunderstood, maybe the truth is a little more complicated. Maybe the apple didn't fall as far from the tree as everyone thinks. What do you think about Presley? Share your thoughts with us in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also, click the next video shown on your screen. You will enjoy it.